What's up, my friends? Welcome back to the Drone Camps channel. Today I have another RC Heli on the channel, and you saw the unboxing before of the Flywing FW200 on the channel, and it got a pretty good response. People are pretty genuinely excited about this heli, but we're going to go through it today and we're going to explore some of the flight modes. I'm going to tell you what this heli has going for it for around $450. It seems like a lot of money for such a small micro size heli, but this has some things built into it in this version that are even better than the original FW450. Now, when these came out, the first version of this heli was kind of finicky, hard to deal with. You had to have your laptop and a cable plugged into your laptop while you're calibrating the compass because it had GPS on board, and that was a pain in the butt. So the V2 came out, that was a little easier, allowing easier compass calibration, and the V2 of the H1 flight controller is also working even better. This one has a brand new version of it with new flight modes added to it. You can actually do some automated TikToks, side TikTok rolls and things like that. You can do auto-inverted flight with it as well. And it also has vision positioning on it. So on the very bottom of the heli, it has a GPS unit with an LED on the back. And the LED shows you the different flight modes that you're in for a visual show. And then on the very bottom of it, it has this little tiny camera on the bottom for vision positioning. So it'll actually hold a really stable hover and fly extremely slow in the stability mode. This little transmitter is essentially an LDARC EX8 transmitter. We use this with different types of FPV drones. You probably could flash OpenTX on this and use it for a number of different drones. You can bind up many drones to this, but I would leave this alone because Flywing has programmed this to the FW200. So don't go reflashing it unless you're maybe an expert at programming these types of radios. It also has app support, so it has Bluetooth on board, the new V2 flight controller, which is really cool. So they have an app coming out for Android, and you'll be able to open up your phone, connect to the heli, and change the settings. I'm hoping that we can change things like the rates and be able to make it a little more snappy if we want. Turn down the gain on the gyro or turn it up as well. So I did notice in my flight test that there was some kind of tail waggle, and that means that the gyro is a little oversensitive, or we have a problem with this brushless motor kind of blowing out. So full 3D mode it will also do. And I honestly don't think this is a 3D type of heli. I mean, it will do mild 3D, what we call sport flying in the RC heli community. So sport flying is basically kind of flying around doing some flips and rolls and basic 3D, basic inverted flight and things like that. It can allow you to do inverted flight with the full manual mode, and there's a difference between the Acro mode and the manual mode on this heli. If you're an FPV drone guy, you know Acro as the non-assisted gyro stability mode, and that lets you do flips and rolls and all that fun stuff. But with this heli, the way it works is that Acro is actually aerobatic or acrobatic for the automated tricks that RC helis can do. You're gonna take stick, move it to the right and back to the center real fast, and it'll flip this way on the aileron axis. So you can flip it again really fast and it'll kind of do like an aileron type of TikTok, which is kind of fun. If you do it forward and back, it'll go nose over. And if you go down and back, it'll go tail over. So you want to have a little bit of altitude when you're doing this type of moves, but it is kind of fun to play around with in that Acro mode. So if you're in that center stick position right here, you're in Acro mode. All the way down is manual, and that's full 3D mode. So don't flip into that unless you already know how to fly a RC heli, or you've practiced on maybe a smaller one to start to learn how to fly full manual mode. And then for the ultimate beginner, you've got stability mode on there as well. So app support, Bluetooth, GPS return to home. It has a glass fiber tail on here, brushless motor on the tail as well, full CNC'd aluminum head, and I believe it was around I'll have to check the blade diameters for you, but we're running a 3S 850 milliamp battery today, which should give you around 8 minutes flight time. Those batteries are pretty cheap, and I'll put some links down below as well. I also noticed that you can unlock this transmitter and go in there and make changes on this transmitter. So if you turn it on, you will see EX8 load up, and that's what this radio is. It's an AX8 by LDARC, and they have a Flywing logo on the front, which is cool. But you can go in here and you can change the milliwatt setting and make sure it's set all the way up to the maximum power, which is 100 milliwatt. So you'll have the most range on this heli, which should be, you know, 200 or 300 yards, hopefully, maybe more. Just don't fly behind things. And also, I noticed that it is also a Futaba format. So that means that heli guys, you guys can bind this up to your Futaba radios, which is super, super cool. So you're not stuck to this little tiny game style transmitter. You can fly it on other types of transmitters. Now in the back, it also has a LiPo in here, and you can replace that LiPo and you can charge it by USB-C, which is really, really nice. And before we go out and fly today, I just want to give you a quick overview really quickly what's in the box and make this full review worth it for you, and show you what you get for the $450. And I'll put a coupon down below as well to try to save you guys like 8% off if you want. It's BG, capital BG Davis 2021 on that discount. So use that if you're going to buy this one. So I'm going to go ahead and show you the heli a little closer up, and then we'll go out and do a full flight test with it and play around with some of the modes on here. Here we go. All right, guys, I'm just going to give you a quick unboxing and let you see what's in this, because if you're thinking about spending $450, you kind of want to know what you get, right? So when this first came out, I got super excited because it was a smaller version of the FW450, and I love micro RC helis, as you know, on the channel, and I'm a long-time RC heli pilot, so this is very exciting to me, and I know there's some guys out there that say, hey, you're not going to learn how to fly with this type of heli because you're not going to learn true manual aerobatics, and that, if that's your thing, go buy yourself a T-Rex. This is a completely different animal. It's kind of like potato, so you're going to learn bad habits with this. Yes, that will be the main advice that real 3D heli pilots will tell you, that it's too easy. So, and yes, it is extremely easy, as I'm going to show you. Some of these flight modes have been updated compared to the V1. The V1 flight controller was only doing like inverted flight, auto flight from a switch, and now it works from the sticks, which is super cool. So you can make the heli flip a certain direction upside down, and if you flip it quick, it'll do like side-to-side tick-tocks, aileron tick-tocks, or it'll do nose in or tail out TikToks. So that's kind of cool, and it does it kind of slow. It doesn't do it as fast as like Alan Sansevogt Jr. or anything like that, but here's the smart guide that comes along with your copter, and I wouldn't really say it's a smart guide. It's actually kind of written in broken English, but it has all the basic things in here about the functions, the compass calibration. I believe that we're going to have to wait for the software to come out for it. The app's not quite out yet, so I know they're going to release it on Android. But you get a little 3S charger in here. It'll also do 2S, and that is an AC wall adapter charger. That's pretty nice. It's 25 watt, and that charges up in about, I'd say 20 to 25 minutes. This is the battery that comes along with it. It's kind of cool, like the larger T-Rex helis. This is a slide-in tray, which is kind of nostalgic to me on my old, say, T-Rex 700. We have an XT30 connector here, so you can charge this on another type of, if you already have a LiPo charger with an XT30 lead, you can do that. So this is a nice battery that they included too. This is a Tattoo battery, one of my more reliable batteries that I use on my drones. We also have in here that LDARC EX8, and again, you could flash OpenTX this and fly any type of multi-rotors on here. Tons of different multi-rotors you can bind up to this radio. It has a 1S battery in the back and charges with USB-C right there. Stable Acro and manual mode, which we'll talk about more later. You get a little driver. This is all M2 hardware on here. I didn't see any M3, so that's kind of cool. This is all the same, and it has these little couplers right here which screw onto the very bottom and kind of lock on, give you a little extra security on the bottom of this main shaft. And I think this is cool. The detail of this heli, it's nice because everything here has been simplified. This is a fiberglass canopy, which is cool because the bigger helis have that. It's not a cheap plastic canopy. And for $450, I expect to get a fiberglass canopy. There's a little tab on the bottom that this slides through. You line that up and pull this off. Now, one thing that I would like to see in the production version of this, and this is just a prototype version you guys are looking at, I'd like to see that the manufacturer includes a pack of links, because when you buy some of the more expensive helis out there, you do get packs of extra links, because if you have a hard crash, these links can pop off and they'll be somewhere in the grass and you won't be able to find them. So that's one concern that I have. Now, I do like the fact that they use high precision servos on here, and these are heli servos. They are metal gear. Why is that good? Well, if this blade bumps the ground, chances are you're not going to strip out servo gear. Years ago on the old blade helis, I'd touch the ground and I'd have broken gears in my servos, so I'd have to go back to the store constantly buying new servos and installing them. These servos are likely not to break on you. I also like the fact that they use a pretty large brushless motor on here. They have minimal link setup and a really kind of slimline designed rotor and collective pitch system here with a swash. Everything is super simple. If you remove this, all this is so simple, so I think it's going to be super easy to work on. This is a plastic swash guide back here for your elevator. You've got aluminum post for the fiberglass canopy to go on and off, and there seems to be no USB port on this flight controller, so I'm imagining that this one connects to your app only through Bluetooth, not to the computer this time, which is great because who wants to lug their laptop out to the field, right? This is a glass fiber tail, I believe. I heard another reviewer say, and on the very back here, we have a brushless motor, which I think could be bigger because some of the tail waggle that I've seen, I believe, is from this particular motor blowing out. It's what we call a blowout. It's kind of, it loses traction, but that's on the harder maneuvers. That's why I'd say this is not really a 3D heli. We don't have, as well, a carbon fiber tail fin back here. We have, looks like ABS plastic, but that's going to be nice and durable. And we have, looks like maybe, this might be carbon plastic blades. They're definitely not carbon fiber, but they look pretty cool. And they have a little bit of a bull nose at the end here, and thicker cord in the center here, and really simple blade grips. And usually you want to loosen these up so that when you take the heli like this and you do this, they should just barely drop down. If they don't move at all, their blades are a little bit too tight. So that's going to be about the tightness that you want. So just, you want to loosen those up just a tiny bit. That way it's not so much stress on the heli head. And that's what some of the more experienced guys will tell you at the field. Just loosen those up so that they just barely fall down when you give it the drop test, so to speak. So we'll do this again. We'll hold it up, make sure the blades are straight, give it a drop, and if they go down, that's pretty good. So you don't want to be super tight. That's never good for helis. And you also don't want them to be super loose because they can fly off and you will crash. But let's go ahead out to the field now. That's the stuff in the box, and I think this could be used as a case until you find a case for it. And we'll just tuck her ears back like that, and we'll plug in that 3S battery and we'll go to the field and fly it. Let's go.
All right, my friends, we're at the field, and the cool thing about the FW200 is that you can fly this in a much smaller field than the FW450. It just doesn't require a lot of space. So let's go ahead. We've let the compass load up. The GPS should have recorded the home point. Give yourself a minute to two to let everything acclimate on the ground. It also is good if you let GPS acclimate to the temperature. If it's super cold outside, a little bit longer sitting on the ground will let it acclimate. Kind of a strange thing, but it is true. So on the left-hand side, you can do stop and run, and that's going to start automatically spooling up the heli blades. It is a self-centered stick for the throttle. We have roll and pitch on this side, and we have rudder on this side as well. So I'm going to go ahead and give it some stick up. Let's go ahead and get it going again. And if you just press stick up, it should come up off the ground to, bring it up to about 3 or 4 feet and let it hover. So blade speed is up, looking good. It sounds really, really nice. And I'm looking at the blades, and the blades look really, really nice and tight. They're lined up really well. So if you see a nice flat disc, that means that your blades are in alignment. If they're not, if you see a little bit of kind of separation there, it means that your blades are off and they're not aligned with the blade grips. And I don't know that you have a lot of adjustment for this heli, but nice hands-off, stable hover. And if you press on the right stick, it's going to go forward. You can see on the tail too that it has a green light on that GPS right there. It's flashing green. And there's a little bit of wind right now. It's actually kind of windy. So I do have a bit of tail wag there, which I'm noticing the gyro is doing. And right now I'm in stable mode on the right hand side. I can flick to acro here, and then we can do tricks. We can go up a little higher. And if you're gonna go into full manual mode, I would suggest being about 10 feet off the ground or more, because the heli will lose height and drop to the ground a little bit. So let me go ahead and go out here into the field a little bit. For beginners, it's so stable. This thing is crazy stable. Checking out the yaw rate. That's just basically the rudder, what we call the rudder. Left and right. And this is kind of cool. You can practice your hover orientation. Most heli pilots start out with the heli's tail facing you. And that keeps left, left, right, right, forward, forward, and back, back. So that's important. When you're hovering, you're going to learn how to hover side to. And then the holy grail of heli flying is learning how to fly nose in like that. One of my first original heli instructors had me do that before I did any 3D moves. I wanted to TikTok, but man, he was like, if you learn how to nose in hover, you will be a much better heli pilot. Now right now we're in normal flight mode. We can do return to home as well. So it should go up to a certain altitude if we're in return to home. Mine, I noticed before when I tested it, it was in land mode. So it'll land wherever it is. And now we can go up a little higher. And let's go ahead and flick into acro mode. Acro is simply acrobatics. So I'm gonna push it hard to the right and back to center. And it's gonna go up inverted. So it went aileron to the right. Now if I click it to the other way, so flip it left, it should go left and back to stable hover. And this is kind of cool. If you do this quick, it's like a little TikTok. That's pretty crazy. So that was kind of amazing that it did it all by itself. Now let's go up and try to do a forward one real quick. Okay, and it's beeping right now. We're gonna go back the other direction. Uh-oh. Let's bring it back. Uh-oh, it's going down in the tree. Oh boy. So that is something right there. It was trying to come down and land, and it was inverted and it wouldn't give me any kind of response on the stick. So that's something to look out for. Probably the first review and crash of this heli, and let's just go ahead and unplug the battery before it gets me in the face. And I'm sure I lost links. So it was at a low battery status. I was inverted, but I wanted to do just one more flip back over, and we weren't able to do that. But let's go ahead and check everything out on the heli. This is a great durability test because it went into this tree right here. And I pretty much thought that was the end of this helicopter. I have done similar things and had very, very bad results. So, okay, so what happened here is it looks like, wow, this is what happened, guys. So that little plastic coupler that was on the bottom here popped off when this hit the tree. When this smacked down, a lot of times what happens is this gets bent or broken. But since that was there, it appears that that saved the entire head assembly. None of these links popped off. That's actually pretty amazing. So this little coupler that screws on the bottom, it saved the head. None of the blades broke. The tail boom didn't break. Carbon fiber landing gear is good. That is pretty freaking cool. I did not know that that little cover on the bottom was made to break away. And so it's somewhere here on the ground. They give you extras. So that's what's going to happen when you crash yours into the ground. Say if you go in head first, it's going to pop that through right there. You see how it sticks out? That's freaking awesome. Years past, I had helis crash like that same type of crash into a tree or into the ground, and you've got links all over the place. I'm not missing a single link on this head, and I flew into a tree. The automated system flew into a tree. So when you get to a low battery, folks, beware. And the good news is that the crash durability rating on this should be a 5 out of 5. That was a hard tree hit, and I thought we had extreme damage. That's actually pretty crazy. So let's go ahead now and go to a second part of my flight test. You guys saw some of the acro flying. I'm going to show you some manual flying on a much nicer day. We'll go ahead and flip over to that, and I'm going to go ahead and go into manual mode. And now we really get a lot more head speed, but you see it dip. So now I have no gyro assistance whatsoever. It's kind of like a, just a regular style heli here. This is like old school flying here, totally manual. I'm gonna try not to dip it on the ground. But it does lose altitude when I come back to mid stick. So that could be a problem. That needs to be adjusted on the transmitter here. So right out of the box, I am flying in manual mode. But I'm not sure I want to take it really high and do any inverted flying with this heli at this point. Not with it like this, but you do have a bail switch. So, if you have a problem, say you get a little bit wonky to the side, you're going to crash, just flip that and it'll auto level. So, I suppose we could take it up and try a roll or something and see what it does. Just flying a little strange with a self-centering stick. I'm not used to that. So let's take it up, bring it upside down. It did a loop pretty good. And it seems to be an idle up. Somebody flying a drone over there on my right. I'm gonna go ahead and flip into return to home now. Ready? Here we go. We'll see what it does. It might land. It looks like it wants to land. Let's push the stick back up. Return to home seems to want to just go right down. And it looks like it's safely going to go down to the ground. So there's usually two different types of return to home. There is, wow, that head speed is high, looking good. So,
all right, guys, I'm back at the bench now, and I'm going to fix the head. And it's very important that when you put that new sort of breakaway nut on the bottom of the motor, that you screw it down all the way flush with the motor so that the blade grips are above the rear elevator guide back here. So if it's sticking out off of the bottom of this motor a little bit too much, like right now, I need to tighten it down just a little bit more. Just use a pair of any type of, like a little wrench or a pair of needle nose, and it is very brittle plastic, but it's brittle so that it breaks away. So you want to just firmly tighten it down so that the head block is high up enough, and that the shaft is nice and level with the bottom of this. So what you're going to do next is you're going to take that little M2 bolt and the washer. Go ahead and use the driver that came in your kit, and use a tiny dab of Loctite on the very top. And careful not to touch the plastic with the top of the Loctite, because it'll melt plastic. So now that everything looks nice and flush here, and it's flush with the motor, I might tighten it up just a little bit more. You can kind of hold the motor in place with your fingers and turn that little nut until it's completely flush with the motor. Now I'm going to take that M2 nut, tiny bit of Loctite, and I'm going to screw that down till it's nice and firm. And you don't want to over tighten things in the heli assembly. So that's looking pretty good there. I might have to turn it a little more. If it doesn't tighten all the way down, you need to bring the shaft down to it just a little more. Okay, so now it should be nice and flush. I'm going to put that screw back on the driver. It's always good to start with the bolt on the driver. Now I'm going to push it down through the bottom of the shaft, and I'm going to tighten this up. Don't forget your Loctite, because this bolt could loosen up and fly off. And get it so that it's nice and firm, but try not to over tighten. So next time you crash, this is what's going to happen. This is probably the most important piece of tech on this entire heli. I love the flight controller, I love stability mode, and the acrobatic modes and all that. That's cool. But this breakaway nut on the very bottom right here saved the whole head assembly. So links and everything stayed on the heli. And in years past, 20 years with the flying RC helis, I've never had a heli that had this on it. And yeah, it saved everything in the whole head. So now it's back on there. All the links are here. Everything's level. We can plug in a new battery and we can try to test hover it again. So I think this little breakaway nut on the bottom of this, saving the whole head assembly, is freaking genius. You know, it's yet to be determined if the main shaft is not bent. Possibly the top shaft going to the blade grips. We'll see how that goes. We'll see if everything's level. If you see any wobble in your heli takeoff, it means that you bent something somewhere here. Especially if the head is wobbling, that means that you bent the main shaft, or something's out of alignment. You need to see that everything 90 degrees here in the swash plate when you go to take off, and you'll be able to hear it. It'll make some wonky noises, or you'll have some violent pitch problems, and tail wag will be even worse than before. So we're going to go ahead now and yeah, give it a test hover and see how it fared after crashing into a tree. Probably one of the most hardcore heli durability tests I've done on the channel so far. And I think, you know, for the price of this one and the size and the scale, $450 is sounding a little bit better now that it has all this tech and safety breakaway nut on the very bottom. This is proven to be an awesome thing for the RC community. So let's go ahead now and do a little test hover. And you can check out my links down below, guys. Please do subscribe on the channel. As always, I'm Justin Davis. All things RC here on the Drone Camps channel. Pure RC fun. I'll see you on the next one. Take care.
All right, guys, it's loaded up. I have a blinking light on the very back. It should go solid before I take off. Everything looks level. I put the new breakaway nut on the very bottom of the motor, and let's see if it'll do a hover without having vibrations or showing any damage. We'll see how it does. That's still, to me, that's just amazing. And I don't need return to home in this flight, so I'm going to go ahead and arm it and just get it in the air. We'll see how it does. See if it's wobbling or shaking. All right, I got a green light for takeoff. Still blinking, but we're going to go ahead and take off. And there she is, back in the air after a crash into a tree, literally the same morning, sitting at the table. I put the new breakaway nut on the bottom. We're back in the air, guys. That's kind of unheard of as far as micro helis goes, or RC helis in general. And I don't know if that technology is on another helicopter or not, but I haven't seen it myself. But I gotta say, that's freaking cool. Let's check the blades alignment just to see. The blades look to be in fairly good alignment. I see like maybe they're off a tiny bit, but after a crash like that, I'm surprised that they're even that good. That is pretty freaking cool. So, okay guys, I hope you really enjoyed this durability test, this crash test. The Acro, the manual mode, all the different flight modes tested on this little FW200, and I'm going to keep flying mine, and I'm going to try to get some more of those breakaway nuts. Those are awesome. That really is really cool. So I'm going to go ahead and let it auto land here, and it should go down, touch the ground, and turn itself off. Let's see if it does. Okay, I'm not touching anything. Looked like it was going to tip over there for a moment. Sometimes gyros freak out when they touch the ground and you're still moving the sticks, so don't move the sticks. And voila, there we go. What a review, guys. FW200. Thanks for watching again. Please do subscribe for more RC content on the Drone Camps channel, guys. Pure RC. again, once again. All right, guys, take care. I'll see you on the next one.